YouTube, this is Charlie426, and today we have the review of the P-Bandai exclusive, or P-Bandai exclusive, Master Grade Jegan Type-D First Deployment Type, or I would like to personally call the initial deployment colors. So this is the third Master Grade Jegan we got. So first of all, we got the retail version, which was the Master Grade Jegan, which was seen in the Sharp's counterattack. And then the second one was the the P-Bandai exclusive Master Grade Jegan Type-D, which was basically the Unicorn Gundam version that we saw. And then the third one here we have this one, which is still basically the same kit as the Type-D, so but in a more different color scheme. So this review is going to be a simple review because this is my third Jegan kit, so I'm pretty sure at this point I don't really need to go over the articulations too much. So first of all, what is the initial deployment type, or first deployment type? It's pretty much what the name says. So when the Jegan Type-D, as far as I know, was first made, and this is where I read about this, so I can't remember where, but this is what I read. So when the Jegan Type-D was actually first completed, they originally printed out the mobile suit as these colors, which the Federation would called it the traditional gym type colors. And then they were first used on a escort mission, and on the escort mission there were like these higher up people who was being escorted, and they saw these mobile suits, and what their opinion was is that the color was too bright. The traditional gym type colors were too bright to be used in a battlefield, so they later changed the color into the more traditional Jegan colors, like the one we see today. And yeah, I'm kind of surprised that they actually made this color variant in Master Grade, because I was expecting this to be coming out in HG, because HG had a lot of color variants. But let's see what we got. So first of all, this is going to be a simple review, as I mentioned, so I'm not going to go over articulation, but I will go over some differences. Now, pretty much it's the same differences between the original and the Type-D, but just to make sure for those who didn't watch that, I'll go over them one more time. So first of all, let's see what we get. So first of all, what you get, of course, is obviously the mobile suit itself, the Jegan Type-D. And then on the right hand, you can see we get the typical Jegan beam rifle with a trigger finger hand. And on the left hand, or the left arm, we get the traditional Jegan shield, which just has the missile launchers, which has the missiles on the shield. Other than that, we still get the beam saber, which is stored in the right side skirt, and then on the other side, we still have the 3 grenades. And let's see what we get. So before we go over the leftover pieces here, what you're supposed to get. So I was starting to be, kind of felt lazy last night, so I didn't cut all of these. So hand-wise, we still get your typical hands. So these are the interchangeable or swapping fingers. So we get a fist hand, we get a samurai holding hand, which is technically, I believe these hands are originally meant for the beam sabers, and then we have these other multi-purpose hands for other purposes. And these 4 parts are not actually used in the kit, so these 4 are actually leftover pieces. And here's another open hand. The other one is actually currently on the kit. And then we get a action-based connector. And then having a beam saber, we get 2 beam saber effect parts. Once again, unlike the HG version, the MG just gives you 2 long ones, while the HG version was very odd. They would give you a long one, and then they would give you a slightly shorter version, which I'm still not, even up to this day, not really sure what they're meant for. Okay, and then we get, being a P-Bandai kit, we get some water slides, we get some numbers, we get some nice EFSF symbols, and they are gamma symbols as well. And then some leftover parts I actually cut off. So number one, these ones are actually from the original backpack of the Jegan. So the Jegan Type-Ds don't use these, which I will point out later. And then here we have a leftover part for the shield. Now, because of the color scheme of the shield, we use a red one instead of a traditional gray one. And then here are some leftover parts that I didn't cut off. So let's go over them one by one. So here we have the J plate. So here, this one is actually the cockpit piece, but we use a gray one on this, so we don't use the red one. And then here we have the missile launchers that are on the shield. Once again, on this kit we use the gray ones, so we don't use the red ones. And then here we have another plate from J again. So here we have the crotch part, which actually has the V symbol. So I believe this is a leftover piece due to the color scheme going on here, and then we have a gray chin. So basically these 2 parts are leftover pieces, while this kit actually uses red versions of these. So we use a red crotch piece and then a red chin piece. Of course, if you don't like having those colors, you can always use the other one. And then we have a leftover part for the shield on the inside part actually. So yeah, we get a red piece, and then we get a full-fledged red beam rifle, a Jegan beam rifle in red. You can technically build a whole beam rifle with this. The only thing that you would be lacking would be the clear piece that goes inside the beam rifle. But other than that, you're good to go. And if you always wanted to have a red beam rifle, be my guest. Alright, so we've seen the basics, so let's go over the comparison. So as I mentioned, this is the up to this point, this is the third master grade of the Jegan, so I'm still expecting a lot more, because if you know how many Jegans there are in the HG format, you'd be surprised. So first of all, as I mentioned, this is the Type D, so if you compare it with the Type D, this should be exactly the same kit. The only difference would be the color scheme, so I'm going to put this away at this point. So for those who are not too much of an expert regarding the Jegans, like what is the main difference between the Type D and the original Jegan? So first of all, let's go one by one. So if you look at the head, so the original Jegan head, well, the basis for the head is pretty much the same, but if you go to the Type D version, one of the big differences other than the color for this case is number one is the Vulcan part. So the Jegans actually have a Vulcan on one side here, so on the left side of the head, and then the design actually changed a bit. While the Char's counterattack version had a more fat antenna, it became a little bit more slimmer, and then the design has become a little bit more refined compared to the Char's counterattack version. And then if you look at the other side of the head, the Char's counterattack version would have a single vent, while the Type D would have a double vent. And then one of the big differences would be obviously the shoulder parts. The shoulder parts are now more blockish compared to the original one. And then if you look at the front skirt, while the Char's counterattack pretty much didn't have anything here, now the Type D actually now has a very small front skirt. I'm not sure if these are supposed to be considered one, but still we have something like those as well. And then obviously the V symbol for the crotches has become much more smaller compared to the original. And then I believe I personally thought the legs would have a bit difference, but as far as I can tell, there weren't any differences. But now the backpack has actually changed as well. So it still has the three thrusters going on here, but number one, the backpack design overall has changed. You can see the Char's counterattack version had this round part and then these lines going on here. Now that's not present. And then obviously design for the side parts has now been changed. The top section is right over here. If you remember, the original Jegan had these pipes going on, or cables right over here in the backpack. The Type D no longer has that. So I believe the Type D is also, in terms of spec-wise, it's a much more better performing mobile suit compared to the original one. Now there are certain Jegans out there that hasn't been has not been made in mass grade. I believe that some of them have been made in high grade. Is that some Jegans would have a different chest vent. While these ones are pretty much the same, but there are going to be different ones, I would assume, because the way how the kit is made, these parts can be detached. So I would assume in the future they would make variants that would also have different chest vents. And yeah. And that's pretty much it as far as I can know. Once again, these type of Jegans, once again, you buy these because unless you're a big fan of the Jegans like me, you kind of enjoy the build, and then you also enjoy finding the small differences between the kits. Sometimes you just don't buy kits because of the gimmick. Sometimes you just buy them because you like the mobile suit, and then you like collecting the variants. And that's pretty much it. So for those who are curious about the articulation, like, it's still pretty much the same, because the arm and the leg builds are still the same. You still have a nice movement going on in the legs. And then they're both still there's no poly caps used in these kits, so just keep that in mind. We still have the nice bend, we still have a nice side swivel going on here, we still have the nice arm bend going on here still. So there's pretty much no change in articulation. So if you built the master grade Jegan, you kind of know how the articulation should work, or you can always check my old review regarding them. Anyway, that's pretty much it for the initial deployment color. So once again, this is just a color variant of the Type D, which is also a variant of the original one. So you're not missing out much. Unless you're like a huge fan of this specific mold suit, you're not missing out much. So you don't need to worry about that. Anyway, thanks for watching the review. This was a simple review of the Premium Bandai exclusive Master Grade Jegan Type D initial deployment type. If you guys got any questions or requests, you can comment below. I still have more stuff to buy and build and make reviews out, so please stay tuned. Until then, see you guys next time!